I made a coloring book this year, and I really wanted to talk about the process of doing that in quite a short space of time. I had 2 art markets this year, which is kind of my second year of doing art markets. I decided that I wanted to make a coloring book quite late, so probably in November I decided that I wanted to do it, and the markets were all in December. So I had to get a lot of artwork done in a short space of time, and then figure out how to print it. And I would say that second part, figuring out how to print it, actually took longer than the artwork itself. In this video, I wanted to talk about and kind of vlog and show some cool images of creating my first coloring book based on Bermuda's marine ecosystems.
Okay, so how did I actually make the coloring book? Well, first of all, I wanted to make a calendar. Like I was saying to myself all year, oh yeah, my big thing is going to be a calendar. I'm going to have 12 beautiful landscape images of Bermuda, and it's going to be watercolor, and it's going to be natural history themed, and I had all these ideas, but yeah, I just found it difficult, and oh, hello. The calendar didn't really happen in the end because I didn't like that style of working. Like, I never make landscapes, I never really do backgrounds. Yes, hello, natural. Hello. Yeah, I never work like this, like doing backgrounds. I did have fun experimenting with the masking tape around the watercolor. I mean, that was fun in itself for me, and I really like this piece, but yeah, basically I tried a couple of landscapes and wasn't totally happy with them, and they weren't thematically linked, so I kind of abandoned the calendar idea. And I remembered that I had done this drawing of a mangrove with the thought of making it into a coloring book like a while before, and I kind of went into crazy mode in November and December to finish it, to, you know, conceptualize how the whole coloring book could look, and yeah, finish all the drawings. And it was quite a lot of work to get it all done, but I actually found that it was more manageable than I thought because there was no coloring, because all I had to do was line work. And yeah, it's amazing how much time that cuts out. So yeah, what I ended up doing was designing different spreads based on the habitats, the marine habitats of Bermuda. And they took quite a while, so I was like, that's fine. I can just do a few of those, and I'll balance it out with individual species drawings, which were way quicker because it was kind of like a sticker, like you didn't have to do a background, you just do the details for someone to color. So what does the coloring book actually have? I decided on, I really wanted it to be landscape from the beginning because I thought it would be really beautiful to have a spread that goes over 2 pages. So yeah, I knew I wanted it to be landscape, and I was working quite big, so I wanted the final coloring book to be pretty big too. It ended up being smaller due to printing issues, but that was the original thing. And I decided that I would have 6 big habitat spreads that would go over 2 pages, that would be detailed and include a lot of species and focus on one, you know, marine habitat found in Bermuda. And then alternating with those 2 pages, I would have 2 pages of individual species. So they were kind of zoom-ins of particular fish that people could have fun coloring in a more detailed way. So the final habitats that were showcased were seagrasses, mangroves, coral reefs, harbor, and then we had high seas and deep sea. So I think that's all of them, yeah. But so those are kind of the main marine habitats in Bermuda, and then I had some colorful fish in between. So the way that I actually worked on this was I used a ton of reference photos from marine environment of Bermuda books that I have. So I have one called Bermuda Reef Portraits. I also looked up some reference photos online, and then drew from that, putting the fish in a little scene. Yeah, and I only I showcased fish that would actually be together in the same environment in the natural world. And I do traditional art only. So I did the line work. Well, I would do it in pencil, go over it in pen, erase all the pencil, and then I take a photo of it and put it into Photoshop. Well, I actually use Photopia, which is a free alternative, so that it can be cleaned up and converted to a digital file. So it's quite a long process, really. The digital manipulation of the file takes a lot longer than the traditional artwork. And it's just, a long process. And I'm thinking about maybe transitioning to getting an iPad and Procreate, like something with a stylus would help me so much, but it's just a little bit of an investment. But I think that it will encourage me to do more work and to complete it quicker if I had that kind of tool. I knew from the beginning that I wanted this coloring book to be landscape, and I wanted it to be pretty much A4, which was the size that I drew it, but this wasn't able to happen in the end. I wanted to get it printed locally, and they were unfortunately limited in the size they could offer, and because I wanted it to be landscape instead of like a normal portrait coloring book, it was even more limited because, I just wanted to print a piece of paper that was way longer than they were able to. I learned things about making books in this process because, to bind a book so that it looks professional and nice, you have to print 2 pages on a long strip of paper. And then you fold them and bind them like that, so it's not singular pages. This is probably intuitive to most people, but it made me realize it in a new way because it affected so much of the printing process for me. So first of all, I thought that I could print this at home. So I did a test print on my home printer, and I just printed it page by page, and I thought I'll hole punch it in the corner. And then I printed it page by page, double-sided, and I thought I would hole punch it in the corner, and then that's a nice little book. It's not as professional as it could be, but it's nice and big, and it's cheap because I can do it on my own printer. And the test print went great, and I thought that it actually looked pretty good, even though it did definitely look homemade. And then when I tried to print them en masse, I wanted at least 10 or something to sell, printer was not having it. I was not having it at all. And I spent so much time. I remember being so frustrated about this because it worked seamlessly when I did a test print, but suddenly it refused to print again when I tried to do more. I think it was due to maybe the thickness of the paper, something like that. So I tried a lot, and you can see all the paper that I was trying to put in over and over again to make it work, but it just would not work. Eventually, this whole time I was talking to the local printer in Bermuda to see what options they could give me, and he was basically like, we can do it smaller, or we can do it big with a spiral binding, which I just think doesn't look very nice. I wanted it to look I had a specific vision for how I wanted it to look, and spiral binding did not fit into that vision. And they said they could print it smaller without spiral binding, they could do it traditionally bound, but it was so much money, it was just prohibitive. The quote that he gave me, I would have had to sell it for so much money, and I was I don't think this is gonna work after all. But I also couldn't print it at home, and thankfully I was able to get access to a fancy office printer that could print way bigger than I could at home, and it could handle the thicker paper. Well, in the end, we didn't go with thicker paper because I didn't actually have thick paper that was large enough to print what I wanted. We just did the book slightly smaller, but it still worked. I was afraid that on thin paper the line art would show through, but it actually wasn't too bad. And like a couple people were like, a lot of kids coloring books are like this, like it's just on like thin printer paper. And I was like, okay, like that's fine, we'll go with that. And that's where we arrived later after all this like stress and energy dumped into printing. But I was very thankful that it finally worked on this larger printer. And oh man, another thing, let me tell you, is that formatting a book like this is really not intuitive. Like, I basically ended up making a tiny model of all the pages that I wanted to face each other, because it's not as simple as just setting up in a PDF what you want to be page 1, page 2, blah blah blah. You have to set it up in a really specific way so that the right pages are being printed next to each other on long sheets of paper that are then layered on top of each other, if this makes any sense at all. So it's like you don't put illustrations on the same printed page as will actually face in the final printed version. It's kind of hard to explain, but I struggled with this, like conceptualizing this, and I had to like do a bit of trial and error to get it. Then in the end, I also decided to bind the books myself. I wondered if a staple bind could work, because I thought it would look the most professional, but I didn't really have a stapler that would work, and it was like a lot of pages together, so I thought it might not go through. So I ended up just doing this type of sewn binding that works pretty well. Like, you kind of punch holes in it with a needle and then use thread to connect it, and I thought it actually looked handmade in a nice way. Yeah, so I was pretty happy with that. Now, the other part of this that I didn't give myself enough time is the cover and the back. I mean, I was pretty happy with the back. I credited myself, like I said, this is original artwork by Sargasso Girl, and I explained the concept and listed the environments that were showcased, because I wanted it to be kind of semi-educational as well. Like, it's accurate, like these are species accurate drawings, and like it's what's found in Bermuda's waters. So yeah, I'm glad that I put that text on the back, but it was kind of like quickly designed. The front was, I would have liked to do this again, because basically how I designed the front was I took one of the coral reef pages and I painted on top of it. Like, I printed out a new one and I painted on top of it as like an example of, ooh, it looks so cool when it's colored in. And I like the concept of it, but I didn't have like a super high quality photo of it. The colors look a bit weird and it looks a bit blurry. So I would have liked to redo that. You also see that there's a little white line on the front cover because the front cover doesn't reach the edge of the paper, but if I cut the edge off, then it would cut some of the interior artwork off, so that's why it looks a little bit weird. But overall, I was happy with how it turned out, and it was smaller than I wanted it to be, but I think that this actually worked out to my advantage, because what ended up happening was the photo of the artwork might be a little bit distorted, or it would be like a little bit blurry in some places. So if I had printed it full size, it might have looked a little bit fuzzy, but now, like, I had printed it a bit smaller than the actual size I drew it. It looked really crisp, which was very satisfying to me. So I finally had my coloring books all ready for these markets that I mentioned. I did 2 holiday markets. So now I'll show you the rest of the stuff that I was selling at these markets. Okay, here's everything I sold at the Christmas art markets. This is my fancy accordion box where I keep everything. So a big part of it, I don't know why this is in here, a big part of it was stickers. So I made some new like Bermuda wildlife designs, and I also had some old stock. So got my whale shark, it's an old design I printed more of. Sargassum fish, which is kind of more for me. Feral chicken, sorry, it's curling a little bit. 1 feral chicken, there's also another feral chicken, here he is. Little rooster guy. Got this guy, which is old stock, Christmas tree on a motorbike. And I properly printed these ones, sailing inspired. This is also sailing inspired. It says set it and forget it with a winch. A lot of people commented on this one. It says too glam to give a damn with a toad, which is a classic Bermuda thing. I think this is old stock of land crabs. And Christmas shark. And I also had sticker packs, which are kind of falling apart. But this is also a challenge to get people to understand what they were, because I actually printed them in sheets. So here's an example. I printed them in Sticker Mule in sheets, and I thought that they would sell better if they were packs. So I literally just cut them out of the sheet, and then I put them in little bags. But then people didn't know what was in the bag because I don't want to use plastic packaging, so I was kind of experimenting with just packing them all together, but they fall out and stuff. So I had whales, and so there's like a couple of different whale designs. I had the reef fish, wrasses, which you've already seen, and I had high seas, sticker sheets, and packs. Then I also had cards, and most of these, so I ended up printing the cards myself. The larger ones are from last year when I printed them with a local company, so I have quite a few designs that are similar. Some of them are the same as the packs, some of them are different. This is the same as the coloring book spread, actually. It's the same as one of the packs. This one's new, specifically for Christmas. Same as one of the stickers. I used to have a dinghy card. I think I sold out of dinghy stickers, but here's the dinghy card. But yeah, I don't think I have more stickers of the dinghy. And then I had these. So those were all my stickers and cards. I also had some art prints. This one's a bit damaged on top, but this is my favorite, soup season. Kind of unrelated to the others though. And then we have the wrasses and reef fish of Bermuda. This is quite an old design, but I still like it. And of course I had the coloring book. Yeah, so after all of that, I was left with this cute little coloring book. It wasn't exactly what I had envisioned from the beginning. I mean, it's printed on thin printer paper, and yeah, it's just not as big as I thought it would be, and various things. Also, the cover was a little bit rushed, and I wasn't as successful with it at the market as I would have liked to have been. You know, I thought this would really be a hit, and people did enjoy it, but I didn't make as many sales as I expected. So what I would really like to do is, I think, give myself some more time to refine this, and maybe aim to get it
in stores rather than selling at markets, because I've done markets for about 2 years now and I'm still not sold that they actually work for me, because they cost a lot of money and it costs a lot of time and money to set up and be there. It's a lot of energy, and if I'm able to make sales in a more passive way, like either selling online or putting stuff in stores, which would have to be marked up, but still, I think it might be more cost effective for me than doing markets, because I didn't get the volume of sales that would have made it worth it this year. I honestly think that, I see a lot of artists on YouTube that are really fantastic illustrators, and they're all really proficient with digital stuff. And I think that might be the way for me to go, where, because I'm very familiar with traditional art, and the way that I made this was scanning it into Photoshop and getting the line work. But, I didn't actually scan it, I took photos of it. So there's parts in this coloring book where the drawings are a little bit blurry because, I've taken the photo and one spot is more focused than another. It's also like I had to take the photos of the 2 pages separately, and then line them up. So sometimes that involves resizing and weird stuff like that. So I just think that one of the main things I wanted to do was to make the spreads connected that go over 2 pages. And I think I could do that better if I redid the illustration digitally, and I could make it crisper. So I'm thinking right now I could go over the illustration I've done digitally, like maybe in Procreate. I'm saying that as if I have Procreate. I don't have an iPad or Procreate right now, but I think that I might have to do that in order to make my artwork more compatible with being printed and things like that, and learn a little bit more about that. So I think I can refine this a little bit more, and then I would love to get it in stores in Bermuda someday.